Good evening and welcome to the Truro Civic Society Zoom talk for November. And I'm very pleased to be able to welcome Andrew Langdon, about whom more in a moment. Firstly, may I be the first to thank Truro City Council for providing us with the access to their link, which enables us to their Zoom account, which enables us to do that. The mayor, of course, is the president of the society, and thank you very much for that. Secondly, may I welcome our new sponsor to add to the existing sponsors, who are the Warehouse, Hendras and Travails. And may I welcome Lonsdale Levine, who have very kindly decided to become involved in the Civic Society, which is great news. Now, Andrew Langdon. Andrew Langdon is an archaeologist. He's a historian. He's the recorder for the Federation of Old Cornwall Societies. He has an international reputation as an expert on, I believe, what is now known as early Cornish sculpture, but it's basically Cornish crosses and other stones. And has been involved in the rescue, restoration, mapping, and all sorts of other things, photographing, particularly photographing stones for pretty much most of his life, as far as I can make out. So I'd like to welcome Andrew. His talk is going to be about the history of the High Cross, but also about his experience of rescuing it following its slight accident 2 or 3 years ago. So without further ado, welcome Andrew. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Bert. I will attempt to share my screen and make sure that everyone can see before we go too far.
Yep, that's worked.
Yeah. Can you make it full screen?
Yeah. I
should also have said that Andrew, of course, is a bard of Gorseth Kerno. There we are.
Right, can everyone see the screen?
Yep.
With the title?
Yes.
Right, okay. Thank you very much. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and very pleased to be speaking here tonight to Truro Civic Society. Many of you will know this monument, known as Truro's High Cross, but you might not know everything there is about the checkered history of the monument. I'm going to start off this evening talking about the discovery of the cross and its significance, look at a few documents that mention a stone cross in Truro, and then look at all the various moves since 1958 that the cross has gone through, and then in particular look at the damage that happened in February 2019 and its subsequent repair. Now, the cross was discovered in November 1958. Now, at the time, there were sewage works going on in St. Nicholas Street, and there was a very deep trench being dug along there from Victoria Square. And Mr. Les Douch, who was a curator of the museum in River Street, happened to be walking along, and he saw on the side of the trench, in amongst the soil, a large piece of granite covered in mud. And he took another look and realized that it was a stone cross. And he negotiated with the workmen, and I think some beer money changed hands, and the workmen cleaned up the cross and brought it to the museum in River Street. And the photographs you can see here show it outside the main entrance to the museum. Now, as you can see from this cross, it's far from complete. It's a wheel-headed cross. It's been trimmed down one side. Looking at this photograph, it's been trimmed down the right-hand side. It's got a St. Andrew's or Saltaire type cross, which has been formed by carving triangular recesses. Whoops, sorry. Recesses in the vertical and horizontal. And below the crosshead, you've got small projections at the neck of the cross. And this is a characteristic you see on many of Cornwall's crosses. Now, when Mr. Douch was speaking to the workman who was digging the trench, they said that further back the road, where they had backfilled and tarmacked, they had found another length of granite, but that had not been retrieved. And the wonder is whether that was another part of this stone cross. Now, function, it's difficult to know exactly where it was situated originally, but Mr. Douch thought that the cross was significant and may have been a cross recorded in the 13th century. Now, looking at this map of from Historic Environment Record, St. Nicholas Street, I'm sure you all know where it is, but I highlighted it in red. Originally, St. Nicholas Street covered most of Boscawen Street because at the bottom of Lemon Street, on the junction with what is now Boscawen Street, there was a medieval chapel to the Guild of St. Nicholas. Now, the position of the cross today is just marked as stone in the circle up to the west of the cathedral. So we're not quite sure where in St. Nicholas Street the cross was found. And although I'd spoken to Mr. Douch several times in the past, I realized now there are so many more questions I should have asked him about the discovery. Now, he realized the significance of this discovery because there is a document in the Courtney Library in the museum, which is a 15th century copy of a land grant, a Truro land grant, dated circa 1290, so late 13th century. And it's written in Latin, but the translation I've been given is leading from the High Street to the east of the water, from the stone cross in the borough of Truro and the cemetery of the Blessed Mary of Truro. So this is the High Street, we think would have been Old Bridge Street, and the route coming in from there. Now, Charles Henderson suggested that that this cross may have stood where the three ancient roads into Truro met, outside the west side of St. Mary's Chapel, as it was then, before it became a parish church and now the cathedral. So there was a road coming in from the west, from Penzance and Red Roof, which came down Chapel Hill and Kenman Street and across the West Bridge, which is under Victoria Square, to the Cross. Or if you were coming from the north, you would come down Pydor Street to the Cross, or from the east down St Clement Hill and St Clement Street and in over the East Bridge. But this is a little bit speculative because the cross was discovered a little bit further away from where it stands today. And this shows it image of St Mary's Church and the cemetery and the area known as High Cross, although earlier on the area was just known as the Cross. And I've been doing a little bit of research into this. Now, today, the footprint of the cathedral covers not only the church, but all the cemetery you can see in the foreground with the trees. Now, looking at some of the documents in the Courtney Library, I came across a note which Mr. Douch had used in his book, and I'll read what it says from the top of this piece of writing. It says, about 1730, the bull baiting ceased, before which a bull used to be kept by the corporation near Castle Hill by one of the scavengers for the purpose of baiting at the bull ring every Saturday afternoon. The keeper used to ride down the town on his back, and the bull would readily go forward to the ring and went down on his head with apparent pleasure to be tied. The foundation of the cross was of moorstone with a square mortise in it to receive the foot of the cross. It was at the corner of the pavement at Keats, but the bull ring was in the center of the cross. The dogs were brought by the tanners and foulmongers, and the foulmongers were people who dealt in dead animals and skins. Now, this statement's a little bit ambiguous, because where it says that the bull ring was in the center of the cross, some people have assumed that it was a ring fixed to the cross that the bull was tied to. But you could look at it that the bull ring, which was perhaps a roped off area, was in the center of the area to the west of St Mary's Church, which was known as the Cross. So we're talking, we see the foundation of the cross, the moorstone base of the cross was existing, but whether the cross, whether the bull was actually tied to that base stone, or whether we are talking about when we talk about the bull ring, we are talking about the area within the cross. Another record that Dr. Thornton noted, he copied quite a few of the corporation accounts, and this one, which is 18th century, was ordered that a pound be speedily erected and built in the cross in the most convenient place. So this was presumably an animal pound, because at that time at the cross the market and the fair took place. Now, by the tithe map, this is 1841, a section of tithe map. You can see St Mary's Church, and you can see the large area numbered 91, which was the churchyard or cemetery. And at this time, by 1841, the area was known as High Cross. But I've been looking at documents both in the Courtney Library and at the Record Office, Crescent-Kernow, and all the documents that mention this area before 1800 all call the area the Cross, and it isn't until after 1803 that I found references that then called it the High Cross. Now, by 1961, the cross had been fitted to a circular base stone. And if you go to the cathedral now, on the southwest corner, there's some fencing around it at the moment to stop anything falling down when they were doing the repairs to the tower. And if you look within that fencing, you find another 3 identical stones to this base stone, which appear to have been architectural stones that were must have been left over from some project at the cathedral. So the cross was actually set up in one of these base stones and placed on the south side of the west entrance to the cathedral in a flower border. And this is where I first recorded the cross. And it was there from 1961 until 1981. Now, in 1981, they cobbled out all the area in front of the cathedral. Before that, there was a big triangular flower border, and people could drive up to the steps of the cathedral. But in 1981, this is a photograph that someone passed to me that was on the internet, on Facebook, and it shows the cross had been brought out and set up near where the entrance to Marks and Spencer is. You know, it's no longer that now, but you can see they planted new trees. The seats are there where they are today, and the bollards have been placed along the roadside. So here it stood from 1981, and this is a photograph courtesy of Mrs. Eileen Carter. I don't know what she was doing holding a bicycle wheel, but she's standing next to the cross, and you know, it gives a good idea about the actual size of the monument. But when different events went on in this cobbled area, the cross wasn't respected by some people, and there were complaints that people were leaning against the cross, people were hanging their coats on it. When there was any stalls and events there in this area, the cross wasn't looked after. And this was discussed at council meetings in Truro, and Councillor John Christie suggested that the cross should be lengthened to give it a little bit more stature and make it truly a high cross. And plans were drawn up, and it was decided to accept a quote from Hantagantic Granite Quarry in St Breward for the cross to be removed there and lengthened so that it would be 10 foot in overall height. This shows the cross being removed in 1987. So April the 9th, 1987, it was taken up to St. Breward, and I recorded it when it was being lengthened. I didn't have any involvement in the project other than as an individual recording the monument. The top left-hand image shows Hantagantic Quarry, which is just to the north of St. Breward. It's no longer used now. It was kind of asset stripped, and now it's all the work's done at Delank. But below that is an illustration showing the proposed lengthening of the cross. And the bottom right picture shows the large piece of granite that was brought in from the quarry for the new shaft to be carved from. Now, due to a tragic accident at the granite quarry, work took quite a long time, and it wasn't until 11 months later that the monument was completed. And here is a photograph showing it ready to be brought back to Truro. You can see the far right-hand side is unworked because the idea was to set it directly into the ground. Normally, originally, stone crosses would have been supported on a base stone, which would have been mortise and tenon in place. But for this project, the idea was to set the cross directly in the ground at High Cross. And on the 23rd of March, 1988, this shows the cross being returned to its former position next to the tree. And as you notice, the tree's getting a little bit bigger. On the left-hand photograph, right on the right side, you can see Mr. Christie just on the edge of the photograph, overseeing the installation of the monument. Although the shaft of the cross looks very bright, it's taken 30 years for the stone to mellow. The granite is a brown granite, similar to the crosshead, but because it was freshly quarried, it looks so much brighter in these pictures. But within a year, the cross was damaged, and while contractors for British Telecom were doing duct work, digging up the road in Boscawen Street and in High Cross, one of their JCBs swung their bucket around and hit the cross and broke the joint. So this is a newspaper cutting from West Britain, and it shows Mr. Christie pointing to the damage. There was timber tied around it to brace the monument until stonemasons from St. Brewers could come down and refix it. So that was on Monday, the 20th of February, 1989. And from then on, the cross stayed in good condition until 30 years to the day when it was damaged on the 20th of February, 2019. And this was a rather bizarre accident. on Wednesday, the 20th of February, a vehicle about 12 o'clock, around that time, actually hit somebody on the seat and the cross, managed to get between the bollards without knocking any of those down, and hit the bottom of the cross. The cross snapped off at ground level. If you see the top picture, just below the bicycle, you can see the lower part of the cross still in the ground. The actual jolt of the vehicle hitting the cross snapped the joint between the medieval part of the cross and the modern, and the medieval section across then fell down on the cobbles and broke into two pieces. So the bottom picture shows three parts of the cross lying on the ground. And this was quite an incident because it was half term. There was lots of people and families in the High Cross area. And when the car ran off the road and hit somebody on the seat and also hit the cross, and the cross come down, it caused quite a panic. People thinking it might have been a terrorist incident. And many people dialed 999, and ambulances and fire brigade and police cars, as you can see, all attended the scene. Luckily, I think the driver had been taken ill, but both the driver and the person on the seat were not too seriously injured, although the cross was completely demolished. And a great deal of thanks is needed for the park department of Cornwall, of Truro City Council, who actually come along and picked up all the pieces of the cross, including a plastic bag full of fragments, and we moved the monument to Boscawen Park for storage. And this shows an illustration of the cross. I visited it well soon after the accident, and I've labelled it A, B, C, and D down the right-hand side. A and B being the two parts of the medieval cross, whereas C and D are the modern 1988 extension to the monument, and part D remained in the ground. Now, immediately, because the cross is a scheduled ancient monument, Historic England was involved. They suggested that the best stonemasons to repair the cross would be C.F. Piper and Son up at Bera Tor, up on the east side of Bodmin Moor. They had recently, in 2015, restored another very large cross that was hit up at Oakhampton. So we knew they had the skills to do the work. But there was a lot of paperwork that needed to be done before the cross could be restored. First of all, Cornwall Council claimed responsibility for the cross being next to the roadside, and they passed all the organisation on to Cormac. Cormac asked the Cornwall Archaeological Unit at County Hall to undertake all the paperwork, and they in turn asked me to do the scheduled monument consent and all the paperwork towards towards the project. Now, we had to, first of all, gain scheduled monument consent to repair the cross, and this meant writing a proposal. We needed to get a quote from the stonemason, and also information about how he was going to repair the monument. And all this had to go into a report to Historic England for scheduled monument consent, or actually to the Department of Media, Culture and Sport. And also Cormac had made a claim of the driver's insurance. So there was a financial side to sort out, and then risk assessments, method statements, and so forth. So it took a long time for all this to be completed. And I think Bert and I know that there was a few other issues we had to sort out on the way. But this is the top photograph, shows the three parts of the cross lying in the compound of the Parks Department out at Boscawen Park. And eventually, in November, all the paperwork was sorted, and Alex Piper, sorry, from CF Piper and Son, came down to Boscawen Park to collect the three parts of the monument. So between February the 20th and November the 22nd, it was quite a long time to sort out all the paperwork. But once that was done, the work progressed very quickly. And this is where the cross was taken, right to the top of Bodmin Moor, the east side of Bodmin Moor. This is Bira Tor Quarry, and it's right up on the top of Bira Tor. And work started the following Monday. And this shows Alex Piper drilling the head of the medieval cross. His father, Ian Piper, who's shown on the left, was brought out of retirement to help with this project. And the first thing was to drill and pin the two medieval parts of the monument. And one thing we found with the cross lying outside at Boscawen Park for months, you realise how porous granite can be. And the top left photograph shows them playing a flame across the top surface of the granite to dry it out. And two stainless steel pins, high-grade stainless steel, were drilled and pinned into the bottom part of the medieval shaft. And the photo on the right shows them offering the cross head onto the shaft. And this is the third member of the team, Peter Hooper, who helped with the restoration. And this shows them gluing with a resin glue the two parts of the medieval cross. And when we come to look at the modern shaft, we realize that the two pins that were inserted in 1988 to hold the medieval to the modern shaft were only 15mm, which are quite small today, and they were made of mild steel rather than stainless steel. And all this area which has got glue on had to be chiseled off. And then we found that there was a crack or running through the bottom of the cross and also up the side of the cross. There's a kind of fissure, a natural crack. And the idea was we were going to set 2 new holes in the cross, but because of this crack, we had to rethink the project a little bit and decided to open up the 2 existing holes to take larger stainless steel dowels. And this shows Alex using a core drill, taking out a hole. This is a rotary drill. We don't use kind of percussion drills because that would shake the granite up too much. And this is also got a hose leading into it, so it's pumping in water, which keeps the diamond bit of the core drill cool and lubricates the hole as it's being drilled. Rather messy job. And when the cross actually broke off at ground level, it didn't break off nice and flush. So when we tried to stand the cross shaft up, it had to be wedged upright so that we could align the cross head with the existing shaft. You can see from the bottom left photograph, they had to retool all the top of the cross shaft, cleaning off all the glue. They completely redressed it with a chisel and fitted a new stainless steel pin, and the second run was ready to go in there. And each time they did a kind of dummy run, offering the cross head up to the shaft, making sure everything fitted before the 2 parts were glued back together again. And the shed was only just high enough for this to be done. And this shows the medieval cross being refixed to the modern shaft, with Mr. Ian Piper doing the finishing off touches on the right hand side. And meanwhile, back down in High Cross, throughout the summer and autumn, I was monitoring the piece of cross that was still in the ground. They put this triangle barriers up and to protect the cross, but it was keep being pushed away, and all the leaves off a tree were falling in on top of the cross base, and then also someone threw a bike in on top of the remains of the cross. So when it was time to drill the bottom of the shaft, we had to clear all this mess up before things could progress. And the agreement was that as much of the work as possible would be done off-site, and that when the cross was brought back, the work would be done early in the morning. So on the 28th of November, Alex and Ian Piper came down to Truro 7 o'clock in the morning and actually drilled the bottom section of the cross, which was still in situ, and prepared it for the cross to be brought back. We were hoping that the following day, on the Friday, we would set the cross up, but unfortunately, due to a bad weather forecast, it was put off until the following Friday. And then on the 5th of December, the following Friday, the cross was brought down from Bira Tor Croy. A large high-up crane was was brought into High Cross. It jammed up most of the corner of King Street and High Cross, and the cross shaft, the cross was taken off the trailer. As you can see from the bottom right-hand side, a stainless steel pin had already been set into the bottom, all ready to slot into the hole that had been drilled the previous week. And this photograph shows them readjusting the strops so that they could do a vertical lift. And this shows the cross being maneuvered into position. If you see the guy here on the left-hand photograph, in his hands, he's got a remote control for the higher crane, and he could maneuver the cross very skillfully up and down by just a few centimeters at a time. First of all, before the cross could be set in, there was a small fragment of shaft that had broken off, and the bottom right photograph shows Ian Piper actually fitting this small piece that was broken off at the time of the accident. The left-hand side shows them mixing the resin glue. And finally, the cross was lowered into position. First of all, there was a dummy run. They dropped it into position. We made sure that the alignment of the monument was as it was before, and then it was lifted and the resin glue inserted, and the cross dropped back into position. And this is what the illustration shows. All the stainless steel pins that are now in the monument. The largest one being 50 millimeters diameter at the bottom, and smaller ones 35 mil and 20 mil fixings. So quite a bit of metal work has gone into the cross. And a couple of days before Christmas, Anne Preston Jones and I went out again 7 o'clock in the morning and gave the cross a good scrub, because with lying down in Boscawen Park on pallets, it become very marked. So with water and a nail brush, we gave it a good scrub. And this shows the cross before the accident, Christmas 2018, and restored again Christmas 2019. And although you got the scars of the joints, they are quite minimal when you consider the damage that was done. Now, in conclusion, I would like to say that one thing I was concerned about, I had to write a report to Historic England and the Archaeological Unit about the project. And there I've suggested that the bollards should be repositioned so that the cross is protected, so that if a vehicle does reverse or drive into the monument, it's got to hit a few bollards before it gets to the cross. Looking at the bollard that actually is taken out of the ground to allow vehicles up to the front of the cathedral, I wonder if that should be fixed, and the access into the cobbled area should be perhaps another couple of bollards further along, so that vehicles are not driving in so close to the cross. And as you can see from these photographs, one of the biggest concerns for the future is the size of the tree. The tree is next to a watercourse, and although all the trees were planted at the same time, this one has grown a great deal more than the others in the area. I'll leave it there. Thank you very much. Just a quick plug for a new book that Anne Preston Jones, Elizabeth Ocasio, and I have published, which actually shows the High Cross. It's a general book on crosses. We did a book, Early Cornish Sculpture, for the British Academy back in 2013, but that is priced £85, and this is a more popular version. Thank you very much.